You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru attı. Kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol. Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 247. That's right, of the Black Eagles podcast. And I'm your host, Sinan Schwartz, live from New York City, where it has rained for like 3 or 4 days. Maybe, folks have heard about that hurricane down in Florida. I think maybe we're getting the remnants of it, which is, not so bad compared to what they went through, obviously. But, again, sort of reminiscent of our situation and the storm brewing, I'm not so sure how much of it's performance-based. Is it on our coach, or how we're playing, or what we're doing, or how much of it is concocted by fans and certain segments of the club's media. And I don't mean the clubs as in like the media that they control, but folks who brand themselves Beşiktaş media with their fancy names and whatnot, and then use their podium to push various agendas. So I don't know who's brewing up the storm per se or what. But certainly, there's once again you have people clamoring for change. People want Şenol Güneş back, Sergen Yalçın. But meanwhile, amidst all of that, there was a pretty big match this week. So yeah, welcome folks. Let's talk about Beşiktaş and Fenerbahçe.
As of right now.
Yeah, pretty big match. A huge derby, of course. Hosting Fenerbahçe, always a big deal. So we'll talk about their form a little bit. I think that's usually how we do it. We'll stick to our format. And they're on pretty good form. Last match for them was a 5-0 drubbing of Alanyaspor. And I think we could have fantasized about doing the same, if not for some refereeing that got in the way. Refereeing in quotes, for those, obviously no one can see me, so I have to illustrate that with my voice. But prior to that, they had a draw against Rennes, the French team. A pretty, I think, for them, heartening comeback draw. They were down 2-0 and came back and drew level. Prior to that, they had defeated Dynamo Kiev, kind of a boogeyman for them. So they would have been quite pleased with that. Then before that, they defeated Kayseri 2-0. Their only real slip-up thus far was a loss to Konyaspor 0-1. Prior to that, they had defeated Austria Vienna 4-1. They had beaten Adana Demir 4-2. Austria Vienna they beat 0-2. Kasim Pasha they defeated 0-6. Umraniye they drew 3-3. Slovačko they defeated 3-0. By the way, that was obviously a bit of a slip-up. Anyway, you're getting the drift here, right? They're almost systemically scoring at least 2 goals a match. More often than not, 3. We've seen a 4, a 5, and a 6 goal outing for them. Yeah. Pretty intimidating stuff, no doubt. Especially when you look at a Beşiktaş side where our strength is our defense in some ways, right? We're only allowing like two shots on goal per match, which in and of itself is fairly impressive. But of course, and whatever you're chalking it up to, bad luck, like just a weird gluttony of wonder goals that were scored against us, or some poor goalkeeping. There's lots of fingers to be pointed. but it's not in the sort of defense itself. Very few chances afforded to our opponents, but they've been putting them away. Sorry for that backing up, bust or whatever it is out there. So it's an interesting, it would be an interesting duel, you'd imagine, where you have one side scoring about as easily as they possibly can. My God, that is annoying. That's like a different thing backing up now. I guess this is talking about systemic. Quite annoying. It's like a garbage truck. Hopefully it doesn't pick up and you guys just all think I'm going crazy. I don't know why that's a hopeful scenario, but anyhow. So what we've got is a classic showdown. Whoops. And so you have a great offensive team scoring at will, and a good defensive side allowing too many goals, according to XG and all that, but nonetheless solid in the back. So like, who breaks form here, right? That's the question. You could definitely make the argument that on our side, despite playing fairly solid defense for the most part, we've underwhelmed, right? The draw to Istanbulspor, heartbreaking. The loss to Başakşehir, even more so. We beat Ankaragücü, but allowed them to score twice. Talk about flukes. We even allowed Sivas, Fatih Karagümrük to each score once. All fluky goals. I mean, we don't even have to talk about the Alanyaspor match. And, what it all speaks to as far as our scoring is that it was hot for a minute, but it fell off, right? We didn't score against Başakşehir. We did actually put some goals in the back of the net versus Istanbulspor, but not as easily as we would have liked. And then, of course, it came back to bite us in the end when we, allowed them to come back into the match. But, so, the big question mark is, like, what do we produce offensively? Do we produce offensively? And that's been a struggle. And I think for a lot of folks out there, that's squarely on our coach, Valérien Ismaël. People think his tactic isn't suited to, the way Beşiktaş should play or whatever it is. I mean, there's an argument to be made, no doubt. I mean, in my honest opinion, I think building a solid foundation in the back is where you should be starting any project for the most part. You can always create goals in the Super League given the gulf in quality between your side and the majority of your opponents. What you need to be able to do is prevent your opponents from scoring, and that has been a struggle of ours for some time. And like even this year, we just lacked this one or two pieces. Like a good fullback, always that second central defender. There's always the one guy who kind of takes the shine off of the better defender. So it all puts the question to us that, like, do we? First of all, vis-a-vis Tayyip Talha Sanuç, do we have the answer? And I think a lot of us thought we might, which would pretty much solve our woes in the back, if he is the answer. And what are we going to produce offensively? Are we going to show up as we have on occasion, right? Like against Ankaragücü or Fatih Karagümrük, or not, like we did against Başakşehir the second half last week. And against some others thus far in the season. I mean, it's not really been a major issue, but of late, right, going down a few players, Gazal especially, of course, that's been a problem for some time, even pre-Valérien. We over-rely on Rashid Gazal's creativity. But in theory, we have some solutions now beyond him, vis-a-vis Nathan Redmond, Wout Weghorst, of course, Nkudu, but he was injured this week, injured on international duty. Redmond also had a broken hand, but they put him in a cast. Dele Alli, right? There's a guy who could solve some of the problem, take some of the pressure off of Gazal. But he also has not really had the chance to settle. Only his second appearance after his unfortunately timed injury. So what does that mean, right? Like that was, I think those are the questions going into the match. How do we fare against a very strong attacking side defensively? Can we hold up and show some of the strength we've seen? And is Mr. Sanuc the solution. And what do we do offensively? Do we have what it takes? And you'd get mixed answers on all fronts, I suppose you could say. So let's dive into this match, shall we? Apologies for the coughing. I'm going to cough a lot. I'm a little sick. I'm at the trail end of it. But so that's why I'm not really editing out the coughs. There are too many to edit. But so yeah, let's talk about our head-to-head with Fener, I guess. For a little historicity. In the last 30 matches, that's what my app here has. Fener has won 11, we've won 7, and we've drawn 12. So the draw is the most likely outcome between us and Fener historically. Though they have the slight advantage if it ends with someone winning, someone pulling all 3 points. I mean, we've won 23%, they've won 37% of these last 30 matches. So, this is one of those rare head-to-heads that does not go in our favor. But there it is. That's just the reality of it. So let's talk about this match, shall we? So first of all, the lineups, right? Ersin Destanoğlu on the back, right in the goal. Tayyip Talha Sanuc next to Romain Saiz on the back line. Valentin Rosier opposite Arthur Masuaku as our fullbacks. Salih Uçan and Joseph de Souza both back in the midfield with Dele Alli set up ahead of them. That you would have expected to some extent. You might have expected Salih to play a little bit more forward relative to Joseph. But, in a game against a side, like I said, who are scoring as prolifically as Fener were coming into this. And I'll say more on that in a moment. I guess, you could see Salih staying back a little more than he would have liked, or we would have liked. Muleka on the wing opposite Nathan Redmond, who's playing despite the broken hand, and Wout Weghorst up top. For Fener, you have Altay Bayındır in the back, Attila Jalai on the back line with Gustavo Henrique and Serdar Aziz, so a 3-man back line for Fener, which is interesting. You had Lincoln as their sort of left wing back / left midfielder, and Ferdi Cariolo as the right wing back / right mid. Willian Arau in the middle next to Miguel Crespo, with Irfan Can Kahveci up ahead of them a little bit. And then João Pedro and Ener Valencia sort of set further ahead. What's, I guess, particularly interesting about this formation is it was the dream formation of none other than Valérien Ismaël until the fans pretty much almost had him fired for even suggesting it. So yeah, whatever. There it is. Fener trots out the 3-4-1-2 that we did not permit our manager to do going into this season. A little bit of irony there, perhaps. But let's talk about the match a little bit. And so one other note that I think needs to be mentioned relative to Fener's prowess in scoring thus far. 538, an organization notoriously bad at predicting things. They have screwed up on a number of elections around the world, poorly predicting outcomes, such as like when Trump first won and whatever. Anyway, they pride themselves on these like detailed, in-depth statistical analyses type things. And they've recently somehow decided to go into the world of football, and they've started laying out predictions for like all the leagues based on all these detailed analysis. So somehow they decided that, this is coming into our match, that Fener had a 49% chance of winning the title. And it's predominantly based on XG. So again, right, we talked about how many goals they're scoring. And so they've obviously put quite a bit of weight on that. But so, all of this is to say that every single statistic out there suggests that Fener is very likely to score a bunch. So our challenge is going to be preventing that. And I think a lot of folks know why I'm mentioning all this. So, the match begins. First real highlight is in the 8th minute. Attila Jalai finds Ener Valencia, who turns quite well. I'll be honest here, it's Tayyip who is slightly slow to react here, but I think this was his kind of like, oh hey, this is the pace of a derby. This is, you gotta really, you can't allow anything in this type of match, because anything can result in tragedy. And it nearly did. Ener Valencia with a nice turn. Tayyip was a little slow to step forward, and Ener Valencia sends the ball just wide, and a lovely curling effort to his defense. In truth, Ersin may have gotten there regardless, though, if it hadn't gone wide, because he really laid out well. And I think he might have at least been able to steer it. Whether enough, that's another question. We've seen tragedies, right? That Istanbul, where he gets enough on it, but then pushes it into the post and then back onto him. And anyway, so it's good that we didn't have to rely on anything like that. But sure enough, the next real chance would this one would fall to Beşiktaş. A goal. Dele Alli with a lovely ball, seemingly, into the path of Wout Weghorst. Who jumps back onside and then makes the run, but he's a little too giddy. I think rather than the jump, he might have done it taken in 3 seconds, gotta count to 3 and then make the run. But he jumps just a little too fast, and he's offside, it turns out. But he did well with the he collects the ball, makes a nice run with it, and then sends it in with power low, kind of in between 3 guys, including the keeper, to find the back of the net. So it was actually a lovely finish from him, and a real shame that it wasn't a goal. And if you look at the replay, I can't underscore how close it actually ended up being too. That little kind of move he made to get onside was almost enough. Delay it, sir, in your goal. But so, moving along, 20th minute, the next highlight would go to Fener. And it's Ferdi dribbling along the right side. He doesn't do much with it, however. Joseph does pretty decently to cut it out. Unfortunately, a bad luck bounce sends it off of Masuaku, who then sends it somehow. Again, it's just a bounce right into the path of Ferdi, who gets it back. Finds Miguel Crespo kind of in the middle of the box. Nicely, actually, locates him. Crespo sends in a shot. Tayyip, Talha, Sanuc with the big block. But the bad luck again on the sort of bounce back. It comes right back to Miguel Crespo. He's too slow to respond on this one. And it's a shot on goal. However, it's saved quite well by Ersin Destanoğlu. A little dramatic pause for you folks out there. 30th minute, a corner kick. It's Arthur Masuaku finding Altay Bayındır, who punches it out. There's a bit of a scrum in there. Punches it out into the path of Salih Uçan, who really slickly, like a one-touch volley, perfectly into the path of Romain Saiz's head, and it's literally just as close as the Ener Valencia chance. Just the wrong side of the post. Delicate little touch. Could have given us the lead again. But so, if anyone's counting, despite talk of Fener dominating the first 70 minutes, their coach said that. A lot of our disgruntled fans said that. If you're counting, it's 2-2 in terms of actually legit chances. They did some flashy things with the ball, but we cut them out with relative ease. Gave them very little to work with, actually. But so let's keep going. 30th minute, Ener Valencia with a really nice run, on the counter to our near miss, by the way, that I just talked about. And then he forced Ersin into the angle was rough, but still Ersin does well, not letting it go through his legs, being kind of sturdy, if you will. And it's a save. And then 2 minutes later, this was Nathan Redmond actually slides Dele Alli on perfectly, and if he gets the right touch, because it's kind of a one touch, I don't think he quite does. If he sends it with a little loft, he probably finds Wout Weghorst, who's wide open right there, and it's a goal. Instead, he might have gone for the goal. It was a tight angle. Still relatively effective, but Altay saves it And then they don't give us a corner, which, you know, I mean, the ref had done a pretty bad job here. And, you know, that kind of underscored it. It was little things like that. They didn't call, like, Attila Jalai had a really nasty shove of, I think it was Rosie? I don't know, maybe Muleka? I don't remember. Someone along the right side. And they didn't even, I don't even think they deemed it a foul, much less a card, which it should have been. But so, you know, like, just overlooking some things. But, like, not the worst performance relative to what we've seen thus far, anyway. But so anyway, that would be it for the half. 3 good chances each now. So there's your dominant spell or most of your dominant spell from Fener right there. And 3 good chances apiece going into the half. In the 54th minute... Oh, I guess no, I should mention. Also in that first half, Miguel Crespo got a yellow card in the 42nd minute. Arthur Masuaku got one in the 45th minute. So the second half, it was a bit of a tentative start to the second half. Again, in the supposed spell of dominance for Fener. They really had one chance. In the 54th minute, Lincoln would send a long ball into the box. Romain Saiz would kind of clumsily head the ball, like, you know, clear/head the ball out of the box, but he's falling back and maybe pulled down by Serdar Aziz. So if this resulted in a different outcome, they might have looked at that and deemed it a foul on Serdar Aziz, so it wouldn't have counted. But sure enough, it didn't really matter in the end anyway. It drops to Zalai, who's up there, and he, like, I mean, kind of cleverly turns and steers it towards goal, but it's wide. And so we're still level. And that's really it. 70th, I mean, for this spell of supposed dominance for Fener, that is. In the 71st minute, we finally get some subs. The 70th minute, they sub in Bright Osai Samuel for Irfan Can Kahveci, Mert Hakan Yandash for Miguel Crespo, and Michy Batshuayi for João Pedro. Bit of a boo for him. Not enough of one, but I guess... We're not even that mad that he joined our rivals here, right? It's almost like he's done us a favor. Knock on wood. And I'm joking. That's rude. But yeah, we would also, just 2 minutes later, bring on Rashid Ghazal for Dele Ali, Taifur Bingo for Jackson Muleka, Jedson Fernandes for Salih Uchan. And that, my friends, my loyal listeners, would be basically when the match would completely turn. And for a lot of, like, our real disgruntled fans, like, oh, we only played good for 10 minutes. I mean, even Jorge Jesus, you know, their coach, said they dominated for 70 minutes. I've countered with the facts here, but he then said that we dominated the last 20 minutes. So he's giving us more credit than our own fans, which is ironic. But, you know, even though it's technically a criticism of his own work as such. But so yeah, sure enough, we really did dominate from there on. Rashid Ghazal, the first chance would be created by him, sending a ball into the path of Wout Weghorst, who I just think wasn't ready for that. He hasn't played with Rashid Ghazal enough to know that he has that in his bag. But so yeah, sure, he just doesn't quite stretch out enough to get his foot onto the ball. But a great chance. He was onside too. Jake Tosin comes on for Nathan Redmond, and yeah, again, it's a shame we don't have Nkuju. So we're playing Jenk sort of on the wing. I think at this point we actually changed our formation with 2 guys up front, etc., etc. But yeah, I don't know if we switch to his favored 3-4-1-2, you know, or not. I don't think we did. I think we just pulled the wings out and did the whatever. The result, again, though, was pretty great. Next chance would be Rosier in the 86th minute. Fantastic dribble up the side of the right side of the pitch, sending in with a perfect cross into the path of Wout Weghorst, who heads it just wide. And it's like the spin on the ball is why it went wide. That's like it was the perfect opportunity, the perfect chance. It was everything we sort of been building up to. And it just, you know, and supposedly Wout Weghorst has been really hard on himself for missing some of these chances here. The next one, for example, in the 88th minute, So by the way, Mishi Batshuayi got himself a yellow card in the 83rd. Ezgian Alioski comes on for Lincoln in the 84th. Umut Merash comes on for Arthur Masuaku in the 87th. And Diego Rossi comes on for Ferdi Kadiolu in the 87th as well. But yeah, so in the 88th minute, Rashid Ghazal with a free kick sort of deep on the right side. Finds Van Veghorst, pure sublime, like, back of the head header, catching everyone off guard. Altay can hardly react. And it bings off the post. And, like, tantalizingly, too, like, it wasn't, like, the complete wrong side of the post and, went out of bounds or anything. It was, like, almost the inside, and it bounces back in towards play. Like, it was... oh, come on. Like, we were really knocking on the door at this point. And it was painful that we couldn't get that goal. And to compound our misery, in the 92nd minute, again a free kick from Ghazal, this time the opposite side, finds again the head of Tayfur Bingöl. This one was closer to the goal area. And Tayfur, with some force, sends it on goal, but it's saved with relative ease by a well-positioned Altay Bayındır. That's probably his strength as a keeper, is his positioning. Area that he really struggles. And he kind of falls asleep at times, as we saw, a couple of our near misses. He just didn't really react to it. But, whatever. I mean, I would say Ersin had a much better game than him. But anyhow, that's like my petty analysis. 93rd minute, Jedson Fernandes with a sort of clumsy yellow card, although a bit of a professional foul. It could have led to a break for them if he hadn't done it. So I don't think anyone is too mad about it. Stats. Game over, by the way. That's it. 0-0. The draw in the bag. Now, as far as the questions that we were sort of bringing into this one, can anyone stop this Fener side from scoring at least 2 goals? Well, the answer is yes. We did it. We did a very good job of defending. And for everyone who's griping and calling for heads to roll and everything like that, because we played too conservatively or we don't play the way Beşiktaş plays, like whatever that means. I mean, if we're playing like this, then this is apparently how Beşiktaş plays, so I don't know. Sorry, folks, but we played really sound, professional defense, and that's such an important thing, right? If you're that's the foundation to build on. Once you can prevent your opponents from scoring, it's not that hard to create 1 goal in the Super League. Look at Konya scored last year. We have a lot more talent going forward than they do. If we can duplicate their ability to defend with our talent going forward, this can't not be a successful year for us, is all I will say. But everybody is... I don't know if we're going to be able to get there, because everyone is now... I mean, I'm not going to lie, folks. I almost didn't want to do this podcast this week, and I almost even thought, you know what, let me just make an announcement and say I'm taking a little break. Because I saw so much negativity online. So many haters. So many people calling for Şenol Güneş to come back, or even Sergen Yalçın to come back. And it's like, I don't know, folks. Right now, there are 4 teams tied for first place with 17 points. And we have 15. We are 2 points off. You're gonna throw the whole season out, baby in the bathwater, because we drew Fener by playing defensively. A Fener side that had been playing so impressively with their attacking football that advanced stats give them a 50% chance of winning the league based solely on just nobody stopping them from scoring at least 2 goals, right? And so not only did we do it, I think we kind of we have a blueprint now. We showed the rest of the league how they can potentially do it. We were a little early on. We were cagey, a little rattled. We were clearing the ball, not really doing any building up, not really doing any countering. And let's look at our lineup for this match, right? It was not Ersin's first derby, nor Valentin Rozier's, but it was Tayyip Talha Sanuç, who did grow into the game quite quickly in his defense. Romain Saiz, first derby. Arthur Masuaku, first derby. So 3 out of 4 guys on the back line were experiencing their first derby atmosphere. Salih Uçan and Joseph de Souza, not their first rodeo, right? But for folks claiming, you gotta play Jedson over them, that's probably why you don't, right? You want that kind of derby experience, especially guys who hate Fener to their bones, the way those two both do. So there's a little bit of logic for, some of the things people might have been able to pick apart about Ismail's approach here. Jackson Muleka, Dele Alli, Nathan Redmond, Wout Weghorst, all of them experiencing their first derby atmosphere in Vodafone Park. It's a lot. It's gonna. The reason I think that, especially like very early on, we were a little bit sort of shaky. I think that's a huge contributor. 7 of our starters experiencing their first derby. I mean, it's under their belt now, right? Like, we don't have that excuse next time, but it's quite a thing to experience that volume and just to see that much color in the stands, all these people, all this activity. So, that maybe contributed to the slow start, if we're looking for reasons. I don't think it was anything that. I don't think Ismail was like, don't try counterattacking. I don't think he's saying like make stupid clearances and don't try passing to anyone. I really doubt that was his advice. I mean, maybe he said if you're feeling a little panicked, right? If you like, don't do anything stupid. Certainly, like your first, if you have no idea what to do, clear it out. But if you're in a little space, be a little more thoughtful. I'm sure. Like I truly doubt that Valérien Ismail like set the team out to not pass the ball. Like that doesn't seem very logical. But so I don't know. I don't really know what like the major criticisms could be, but we certainly shut down a very good attacking side pretty completely, to be honest. Like we had way more opportunities than them even. So there's that. If you're counting again, right, the highlights, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Beşiktaş. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 that I relayed RE Fenerbahçe, right? So like a huge advantage for us, to be honest. We deserve the match. And if you don't believe me, let's look at some advanced stats. XG 0.96 to their 0.64. So we just about earned a goal, whereas they didn't. Weren't quite there. We had 9 shots to their 8. 2 big chances to their 1. 2 big chances missed to their 1. Passing, just about even. 74% to our 73%. They completed more passes. 310 to our 271 because they had a little bit more of the ball. 53% to our 48%. That doesn't even work mathematically. It'd be 52 to our 48. So we were offside 7 times to their 4, showing a lot of intent and some poor refereeing. I think twice, I remember in the first half, Muleka not being off. Didn't result in anything major, so I didn't feel like complaining too much, but it did happen. So, I don't know. Is the complaint that we need to have more possession? We had more chances against a much more in-form attacking side. And the criticism for me, like to some extent, yeah, you could be critical of the players for like feeling like they were not big enough for the match, for playing a little meek for a stretch. But I don't think that was the tactic, was to be meek. But that doesn't even make sense. How do you instruct your players to be meek? What is Valérien Ismail telling them? That doesn't. I don't know what people are complaining about. And then again, the way we grew into this match and actually ended up fairly dominant, I especially don't get it. And then you look at like the big chance at the end, which was Rosier finding Weghorst, advancing it's like one-on-one essentially, and Weghorst screws it up. That's why he's being so hard on himself. Valérien Ismail pulled him aside and said, "Don't be hard on yourself. These things happen, right?" And they do. It's not like anyone's like, "Oh, we should get rid of Weghorst." But I don't know. I feel like our fans, you almost lost me, fans. not as a Beşiktaş fan. I'll never not be a Beşiktaş fan. I don't think my loyalty could be doubted, having done 247 episodes of a podcast dedicated to this club, basically for a small segment of our fans who don't have access to, Turkish media or whatever, don't understand it or whatever it might be. So, I just for me, the negativity among our fans is I don't know. It's bizarre. I know everyone's got certain agendas. Oh, I need people love Şenol Güneş or whoever it is. They need to see having a job, but I don't get it. We're 2 points out of first place. We're not playing the most impressive attacking football, but we are playing quite impressive defensive football. And I don't think that's negative. People are like, oh, that's not Beşiktaş. I think it's quite a thing to be a good defensive side. And if you look at our ability on paper going forward, it's hard to imagine us not figuring things out. I mean, we literally haven't had the whole unit out there at the same time healthy yet. So can we just relax, folks? That's maybe why we've struggled to find consistency up front. Have you considered that? We have not seen our best 4 attacking players on the pitch at the same time once. Calm down, folks. It's annoying. We don't have to have civil war every time there's even something remotely negative that happens to us. Shut up. God, it's just childish and annoying. We don't have to create our own controversy every week because you miss Şenol Güneş. We all love those great times we had back then. It was a lovely time. We won 2 championships in a row. It's done. And I'm done. Follow us on Twitter at Eagles_podcast. Follow myself at Sir_writes_a lot. Follow us on Instagram, Black Eagles Podcast, one word. Let's go Beşiktaş! And honestly, if you don't agree, if you want to see us fail so that you can get your favorite coach in instead, or if you want to undermine our whole season because you're a little bit, a little displeased about one aspect of something, despite not even wanting to recognize all the other aspects that go into a successful side. I don't know, man. I don't know if you need football in your life. Seek therapy first. Yeah.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.